We have the secondary citizen to Simone Biles, that is Jordan Childs. Time Magazine's telling us that this isn't really the Women of the Year. These are the secondary citizens of the Women of the Year. At least when it comes to A'ja Wilson and...
You won't believe this one. Seriously, it's unbelievable. Just when we thought Caitlin Clark had done it all, Time Magazine pulls a move that's almost too crazy to be true. And guess who's right in the middle of it? As Wilson. At this point, it feels like they're just making things up for fun. I had to double check to make sure it wasn't a joke, but nope, it's real. Trust me, you're going to want to hear every single detail. Buckle up, let's dive into it.
A'ja, there's days where I'm struggling. It's moments where no matter how hard you work, it still feels like you're not getting the recognition. It still feels like somebody's got to say something to say. I needed them to understand that they help me in more ways than they'll ever know. It's hard showing up every day and wearing this crown. It's heavy. It gets extremely heavy. But at the same time, I'm going to fix it, make sure it's straight, and I'm going to go ahead and do my...
So, Time Magazine really thought they could just skip over Caitlin Clark for their Women of the Year list and nobody would notice? Like, seriously, were we just supposed to ignore that? Caitlin Clark is arguably the biggest name in women's basketball right now. She's breaking records, setting viewership records, and is single-handedly pushing women's basketball into the spotlight. Yet, somehow, she's not even a nominee. But guess who is? A'ja Wilson.
Dear friend, Caitlin Clark did not make the cut. Folks, don't overreact. Don't get angry. Don't get frustrated. Don't be surprised. I don't think anybody should be surprised by this. And this isn't A'ja Wilson's fault. This is just Time Magazine doing what Time Magazine...
Let's take a closer look, because none of this adds up. Caitlin Clark has single-handedly made women's basketball the hottest topic in sports media. She's got NBA stars tuning in, celebrities tweeting about her, and TV networks begging for more. When was the last time a college player had this kind of impact? It's unheard of.
A'ja Wilson has been nitpicking with Caitlin Clark, almost like anything you can do, I can do better situation. And this is another case of that type of scenario because Time Magazine, let's pull it up right now. Now, I was stunned when I seen this, guy. I was definitely stunned when I seen this. As you guys can see here, Time Magazine has named A'ja Wilson, and which Jordan Childs definitely deserved this. Jordan Childs.
Then there's A'ja Wilson. Yes, she's a fantastic WNBA player, but let's not pretend she's completely changing the game. And yet, not only is she nominated, but she's literally the face of the magazine, front and center as the big cover star. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark? Not even mentioned. Not even a footnote. It's not like Caitlin Clark just had a good year, she had a historic one. Breaking records, selling out arenas, and pulling in ratings that WNBA players can only dream of.
Oh, man. A'ja. So you got your Time Woman of the Year cover. You're one of the 10 women, I guess, in sports that they're saying are Women of the Year. So you get your cover. Today is your day. What a day to celebrate.
And don't even get me started on A'ja Wilson acting like she's the face of women's basketball. The only time people really talk about the Aces is when they're dominating other WNBA teams. Yet somehow, A'ja gets all the attention, while Caitlin, who's actually moving the needle, gets nothing. Oh, and let's talk about viewership. Caitlin Clark's games are pulling in NBA-level ratings, while A'ja Wilson's games are getting outviewed by reruns of * The Price is Right star. But she's Woman of the Year? Come on, Time Magazine. We're not going to sit here and pretend like this isn't the biggest snub of the year. This is worse than Leo DiCaprio waiting years for an Oscar. Worse than when J. Cole lost Best Rap Album to Macklemore. This is straight-up disrespect. Let's be real, Time Magazine completely fumbled. They thought nobody would notice, thought Caitlin's fans wouldn't speak up. But now, we see it clear as day. Caitlin Clark deserved that nomination more than anyone, and the fact that she wasn't even considered tells us everything we need to know about Time Magazine.
What are we talking about, man? All you gotta do is be a teammate of Caitlin Clark, or have a rivalry with Caitlin Clark, or have an incident dust up with Caitlin Clark, or say something slick about Caitlin.
Caitlin Clark completely changed the game. She stormed into the WNBA, brought millions of new fans, and made the world talk about women's basketball like never before. She sold out arenas, broke records, and dominated on the court, putting up numbers we've never seen. And yet somehow, Time magazine decided AJA Wilson is the Woman of the Year. AJA Wilson, the same player who's been in the WNBA for years, but outside of hardcore fans, nobody really paid attention. She wasn't selling out arenas, she wasn't making casual fans tune in, and she wasn't turning heads like Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark came in and instantly put the WNBA on the map. She made people care. Before her, the WNBA was background noise for a lot of people. Now, it's must-watch TV. And yet, she's getting disrespected. She's being overlooked by analysts, players, and now Time magazine, for a player who's been around for years but hasn't moved the needle the way Caitlin has. It just doesn't add up.
Calculated that Caitlin Clark was responsible for $36 million in economic impact to the city of Indianapolis, and that she is responsible for 27% of the entire WNBA's economic activity for this past season, including attendance, merchandise sales, and television. One player in a big league responsible for 27% of the economic impact and economic activity for the WNBA. One person more than a quarter of it.
Let's talk about adversity. Caitlin Clark has faced more hate than any rookie in WNBA history. She stepped into the league and immediately had a target on her back. Players took cheap shots at her, and WNBA veterans were openly critical because she became the face of the league overnight. Media members threw shade, questioning if she was even that good. Meanwhile, AJA Wilson? She gets endless praise as if she's single-handedly carrying the WNBA, when in reality, Caitlin Clark is the one doing all the heavy lifting, and let's not forget, Caitlin Clark kept pushing through all that. She broke records, made history, and proved every hater wrong. Yet, despite all of that, Time magazine overlooked her and handed the Woman of the Year award to someone who didn't have half the impact Caitlin did. What exactly did AJA Wilson do that was so groundbreaking? She won a championship, okay, that's nice. But Caitlin Clark? She won the championship of making the WNBA relevant. That's way bigger than just a trophy. Giving AJA Wilson Woman of the Year feels like handing an MVP to a role player while the superstar is carrying the whole team.
Caitlin Clark has officially surpassed a 25-year record. She became the fastest player in WNBA history to record 200 or more points, 75 or more rebounds, and 75 or more assists. Doing so in just 15 games, beating Shannon Johnson's record of 16. This is just another way to prove that she is without a doubt a generation.
But instead, let's reward the safe choice. Let's ignore the fact that Caitlin Clark was out here dealing with a league full of players who had a personal vendetta against her just for being herself. Let's pretend she wasn't getting fouled so hard that even NBA players had to speak up. Let's act like she didn't face more scrutiny than any other WNBA player ever. Time magazine fumbled this one. They had a chance to acknowledge the biggest game changer in women's basketball history, but instead, they went with the politically safe choice, the one that wouldn't upset the WNBA veterans. Classic and AJA Wilson? She had no problem accepting the award, fully aware that Caitlin Clark is the reason more people even know who she is now.
We're talking about GOATs of the W. I need my name to be up there, at least top 3. Like, that's my goal, is like, I want something like, when you're thinking of women's basketball, when you're thinking of the W, I want my name to be on it.
Come on, tell them, Asia, tell them.
Takes, like, whatever it needs to get there, whether it's the rings, whether it's the accolades individually, like, I want to be up there.
So, this is the same AJA Wilson, right? The one who, just a few months ago, was throwing her own teammates under the bus, saying their locker room wasn't a championship locker room? The same AJA Wilson who, instead of stepping up as the supposed leader of her team, decided to air out her frustrations publicly, like she was on a reality TV show? And now, she's the face of Time magazine *? What? Let's not forget, this is the player who, when things didn't go exactly her way for one season, suddenly made it everyone else's fault. Her teammates weren't championship material, the locker room wasn't up to her standards. But when they were winning, and everything was great, she was all smiles, taking the credit, acting like the queen of the WNBA. The moment adversity hits, though, suddenly she's got complaints. Interesting, huh?
Wasn't a championship locker room, Wilson said. I mean, out of the gate, Going into training camp, I was like, we ain't got it. Wow. Okay. That's crazy. I always told myself, we're going to get it. We're going to check each box, but we didn't.
Let's break this down real quick. AJA Wilson is out here on the cover of *Time magazine *, getting celebrated like she's the greatest thing to ever happen to basketball, while Caitlin Clark, the actual biggest star in women's basketball, is getting disrespected left and right. AJA Wilson gets a magazine cover, but Caitlin Clark? Now they're acting like she doesn't even exist. How does that make sense? And don't even get me started on this narrative they're pushing about AJA Wilson breaking barriers and leading the way. Leading the way to what? A second-round exit? That's what happened last year when she was blaming her teammates for not meeting expectations. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark is out here breaking records every other game, setting attendance records, and pulling in more viewership than most NBA games. And yet, she's the one they keep trying to downplay. Make it make sense.
Today, where Asia Wilson, she kind of admitted that the Aces were not like championship ready this last season. She said specifically it wasn't a championship locker room. I mean, out the gate, going into training camp, I was like, we ain't got it. I always told myself every game, we're going to get there. We're going to check each box, but we didn't. And then she also went on.
And I actually just want to leave this here real quick. I mean, this shows no loyalty to your teammates. And this just shows, so you felt like this wasn't the team to get to.
It's honestly kind of laughable. AJA Wilson is out here getting magazine covers, but when the league actually needed a superstar to bring in fans, it wasn't her who delivered, it was Caitlin Clark. You know, the same Caitlin Clark who's been dealing with constant disrespect from the media, other players, and even the WNBA itself. But AJA? Oh, she's got *Time magazine * singing her praises, and let's not forget, AJA Wilson was the same one crying about not getting enough MVP recognition, saying she doesn't get the same respect as other stars. But here's the thing, respect is earned, not given. Caitlin Clark never had to beg for attention. Her game made people pay attention. Meanwhile, AJA has been in the league for years and is still out here complaining about respect. Maybe if she spent less time whining and more time elevating her game, she wouldn't have to beg for credit.
This is quite remarkable. I've never seen a professional league just actively attempt to tear apart their ultimate star. Washington Mystics owner Sheila Johnson wants to know why they couldn't have put the whole WNBA on the Time cover and called it the League of the Year. And of course, she said that because her argument is Caitlin Clark is not the only one that moved the needle for the...
The narrative never changes. Every single year, they try to tear down the best, and this time it's Caitlin Clark. But here's the thing, this isn't last year. This isn't Iowa. This isn't college basketball, where teams could just rough her up and hope the refs would let it slide. This is different. Caitlin Clark has an army now. She's got veterans like Dana Borner, who's seen it all and isn't having any of the nonsense. She's got Sydney Colson, who will clown these haters in real time and then drag them on social media after the game. And don't forget Sophie Cunningham, basically the WNBA's enforcer. If you touch Caitlin, Sophie's making sure you regret it.
First of all, do the Fever even have any more roster spots open? How many folks are you guys going to sign? What is painfully clear, and what I've talked about in my other videos, is that the league, the Fever organization are doing everything they should do to make sure their star is happy and that their star gets a ring. I didn't know they were going to load up like this, though. DeWanna Bonner, Sydney Colson, re-signed Kelsey Mitchell. You already have Aaliyah Boston. You have Caitlin.
It's like Caitlin Clark has her own personal security team on the court. And then there's her head coach, Stephanie White, a coach who knows exactly what it takes to win. She's been there with the Fever, and she's not about to let Caitlin Clark be disrespected like she's some random rookie. So when Caitlin's out here lighting up the league, putting up ridiculous numbers, and leading Indiana to wins, how exactly are they going to keep disrespecting her? What's the excuse going to be this time? Oh, it's just the regular season? She's playing with a good team? The league is carrying her? Nah. The only thing being carried is the big L these haters are going to take when Caitlin Clark is holding up a trophy at the end of the season.
Clark will be legitimate WNBA MVP contender in 2025. The Indiana Fever star is building a historic rookie season to challenge A'ja Wilson for the 2025 MVP honors. Now, I told y'all, bruh, Caitlin Clark is standing on business next to A'ja, bruh. She wants that MVP trophy. She needs that trophy. She winning all the awards right now, but she needs that one on the list as per.
And speaking of haters, let's talk about Time magazine. Caitlin Clark drops 35 points, and they say it wasn't efficient enough. She gets a double-double, and they say she's stat padding. It's a never-ending cycle, and we're all tired of it. Then there's AJA Wilson. Oh, you thought we'd forget about her? Nah, she's part of the problem too. Acting like Caitlin isn't that good, like she hasn't been doing this for years. AJA and her crew love moving the goalposts when it comes to Caitlin. When she wasn't in the league, they said she wouldn't be good enough. Now that she's dominating, they're still finding ways to discredit her. It's getting ridiculous, but you know what? None of it matters. Because at the end of the day, all Caitlin Clark is going to do is win. And what are they going to say then? How do you keep disrespecting someone when they're holding up the MVP trophy and leading their team to the finals? The simple answer is, you can't. If you enjoyed this, like and subscribe. More videos are on screen now.
This is quite remarkable. I've never seen a professional league just actively attempt to tear apart their ultimate star. Washington Mystics owner Sheila Johnson wants to know why they couldn't have put the whole WNBA on the Time cover and called it the League of the Year. And of course, she said that because her argument is Caitlin Clark is not the only